Hello, my name is Luke Larson, and my bi- biography project is on Marian Breland Bailey. So, a little bit about Marian Breland Bailey. She was born in 1920. She began her career in psychology at the University of Minnesota in 1938. Um, there, she was actually one of B.F. Skinner's first students, and she started there as his student in her sophomore year of college. And then after leaving college, she ended up working on the Project Pelican wartime pigeon program. And then after that, she ended up meeting and marrying Keller Breland. And her and Keller did many projects. Which I'll get to later on in the presentation. Um, and then Keller ended up passing away in 1965. So she ended up marrying another man named Robert Bailey, and she also did many projects with Robert Bailey, many different articles and wrote other things with Robert Bailey, different studies. And then Marian passed in 2001. So here's some articles and books that I found. These are the ones that I'm using for my project. So I tried to go in chronological order here. So first we have A Field of Applied Animal Psychology. That was in 1951. That was with Keller, and that's something that I wrote about. It was something that was a commonality between a lot of her writings. She did a lot with Keller. They worked together on a lot of different projects. Next one was The Misbehavior of Organisms in 1961, and that was also with Keller. And then Animal Behavior, which is the book that I have a picture of here, that is also written with Keller Breland. And then later on in life, after she had married Robert Bailey, they worked on this article titled A View Outside Skinner's Box. And this article really encompassed a lot of what Marian Breland Bailey did over her lifetime. So it was very helpful to me in my project. Um, and then the last one, it kind of, as a culmination of her career, Marian Breland Bailey wrote um, Every Animal is the Smartest, and this was kind of it encompassed everything she had worked towards and all of her different studies she worked on. Um, and it was a very interesting article, especially because it was written by herself. So some summaries of her work. Like I said, she was a student of B.F. Skinner at University of Minnesota. Um, she she and Keller Breland started an enterprise or a business called Animal Behavior Enterprises, and there's a picture of Animal Behavior Enterprises. It looks like they're in kind of like a school, and they put on a lot of shows across the country. They showed these animals and what they could do. They trained them, and then they also hired other trainers, taught those trainers. Those trainers worked with these animals, and they went out across the country and showed these animals. But it, no animals were harmed in anything. It was all um, trying to show operant conditioning throughout all of these shows. And operant conditioning is a method of learning using rewards and punishments for behavior. So, and I'll get into what the what kind of troubles they had with some of these animals, but for the most part, it was a very successful venture. Um, and like I said, they did shows across the country, and then she ended up writing Animal Behavior with Keller Breland, and that goes over a lot of what their trials and tribulations throughout their whole process, and also goes over a lot of um, groundwork for training animals and in operant conditioning. So as for my interview with Marian Breland Bailey, here's some questions that I asked her. So the first one, what is it like being a student of B.F. Skinner, and how did he shape you into the psychologist you are today? Um, I For each of these questions, I just wrote a little bit about about some of her answers. So she said it was an honor learning from the best, and it gave her the drive to pursue the field of applied behavior. My second question from your first article, a field of applied animal psychology. Name a few of your favorite acts, and you and Keller Breland mentioned, and why they were your favorite. So her favorite was called A Pig Named Priscilla. So they had this pig named Priscilla. Um, they called her Priscilla, but as the company got bigger and bigger, Priscilla was actually many different pigs. Um, but they taught Priscilla using opera conditioning, and she would do things like run a vacuum or fold clothes and or put dirty clothes in a hamper, um, and a lot of like household chores. So it's pretty interesting. My next one, what are some failures you and Keller explained in the misbehavior of organisms? So misbehavior of organisms goes over a lot of the trials and tribulations of their the shows that they put on. So the one that comes to mind that she mentioned is a raccoon placing coins in a container. So they they tried to teach a raccoon to pick up coins and put them in a container, and then the the raccoon was then given food. But what would happen is the raccoon would pick up the coin, and then instead of putting it in the container, it would rub it around, bang it on the floor, act like it was going to put it in the container, then pull it back out. So there were all these different things that kind of went wrong with the raccoons, but um, more often than not, they did the right thing. So my last one, how did some of your experiments with the animals evolve strategically or technologically once you began working with Robert Bailey? So it as a time went on, more technology comes out, and um, she said in order to get more precise readings on the thoughts of animals and things like that, they use things like nerve taps, electromagnetic radiation, laser beams, ultrasonics. So here's a little bit about her importance. She learned from B.F. Skinner, like I said. She was a pioneer of behavior analysis. She was at the forefront of training animals using operant conditioning. That was her main focus. Her and her crew toured the world and showed audiences animal skills. Uh, she had techniques of training the animals that are still used today, and then animal behavior is still used because it had a profound impact on applied behavior analysis. And here are some of my sources. Thank you.